Hey, everybody, it's Adam with the Poisoner's Almanac podcast. Just want to say thank you all so much for leaving 5-star reviews on whatever platform you happen to be on. Those are extremely helpful to push the podcast out to other listeners who would also enjoy our content. Also, in the show notes, we're going to have links where you can follow us on socials, especially the Instagram for the podcast, Poisoners_Almanac. Becca runs that Instagram account herself, and she uploads all kinds of granular, deep cut information on all of the stuff that we cover in our episodes. So go give that a follow. Link is in the show notes. All right, let's get to the episode. Hello again, everybody. Welcome back to the Poisoner's Almanac podcast. I'm your co-host, Adam.
I'm Rebecca.
How are you today, my dear?
My ears are ringing. We know what that means.
Is rain coming?
Rain's coming.
Okay.
As weird as that sounds, my ears always ring right before the rain happens. There's a story about why that happens now, but I don't want to get into it because it's traumatizing. Not everybody's going to be like, I want to hear it.
I actually don't know what story you're talking about.
Oh my God, really? We were married at this time. You don't remember?
No.
I'll remind you later. Anyway.
I'm so disappointed in me. Wow.
But,
so what's new? What's the haps, groovy chick?
Yeah, let's not do that.
What's happening, groovy chick? You're happening in a far out way. You want to go out for a soda?
You're one dynamite gal.
Dynamite gal. Slick tiddlywinking pint size. Sorry, you're going to get me started.
It's like one of my favorite Disney characters,
yes,
too.
That's from Wreck-It Ralph. If any of you are uncultured peasants, that's from Wreck-It Ralph.
But yeah, doing all right. Just trying to parent and also do all the other things.
All the things.
I'm having a hard time with.
Yes. Our daughter had a great moment this evening. You prepared a delicious meal as per usual. And wait for it, our daughter ate it.
She ate some. I was really shocked. And it's a meal I've made thousands of times before because I don't like to try a whole lot of new recipes because then I have to figure out how to do that, and it takes a lot of effort for me.
Yes. And for those of you who don't have children, what we are describing is the hostage negotiation that is parenting.
Yeah. Well, she especially really struggles with trying new food. She is very picky to the point where she'll eat rice, but only from a specific location.
That's right.
So it's
like Sheldon Cooper with his haircut records.
Yeah. And she's very picky. So for her to actually try this,
big deal. Yeah. She ate the fish. She ate the pasta. Did she have any of the zucchini?
No, she's not gonna.
Okay, forget that. Let's not get greedy.
No, she liked. Well, I made salmon. She normally eats. She does like fish, but it's normally like a breaded cod, which she then takes the breading off. So there's that, or
as one does,
kind of fish. So this was more of a, I don't know how you would say it. It wasn't fried. It was I don't know what, sauteed. Do you saute? I don't know.
Yeah, it was sauteed.
I cooked it with, some butter and on the stovetop. That's what I did. That's how I always do it. And so she actually, she removed the top parts that were, on the pan because they were harder. She didn't like that part, but
yes.
And some pasta. She did eat the pasta.
Yes, she is just dipping her toe into diversifying her diet, as many young children have to do.
Well, I was shocked that she tried the pasta because it had parsley on it.
Oh, God.
Usually
2 breakthroughs at once? Come on.
Usually if it's multicolored, she's not eating it. So.
That's right. But she did it, and she enjoyed it, and I was so happy for my wife because
I didn't have to make another meal.
I didn't have to make a separate meal from the one that we're already eating.
Yeah.
Yes. And a lot of times I'll jump in because I know Becca's been slaving away in the kitchen making the main meal, and I'm like, do you need me to whip up some chicken nuggets or something for our daughter so that,
and
you can be done?
I know there are people out there that are like, well, she'll eat if she's hungry enough. No, she won't. She will not. She has gone days where she's like, I'm not eating that. I'm not hungry. I'm not eating it. No, she is very stubborn when it comes to food.
Yeah. Like I said, hostage negotiation.
Yeah.
So what are we talking about in this episode, my dear?
We are talking about some poisons that you may have never heard of.
Okay.
So they're kind of poisons from the past that we just don't either deal with that much anymore, or some that are in different places that you just never hear about.
Turkish delight.
I've actually heard that's pretty gross.
Oh, that's too bad.
Like, considering, like, he gave, like, is it Edward? Edmund, whatever. He
was deceived.
He basically like gave his whole family up for this Turkish delight, and like people,
which is a whole mood. Like, what's going on at home that you would?
Well,
anyways,
it tracks with his kind of character though, because he's kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, he's.
Anyways, I got us off track with Turkish delight. What are we covering?
Well, first I'm going to go over something called Coyatillo. I'm hoping I say that right. Coyatillo. It's also known as buckthorn or tuladora. The scientific name is Carwinskia humboldtiana, and it is found in the southwestern Texas plains, southern California, New Mexico, and Mexico. It is a woody shrub of the buckthorn family, hence, I guess, another reason why it's called buckthorn.
Woody shrub.
Woody.
Who's the shrub?
Oh my gosh. It can reach 5 to 6 feet in height, and it can be recognized by its, I don't even know if this is a way to...
Woody shrubbiness?
No, I don't know if this is a way of like describing this, but it was the best way that I could come up with. It's untoothed, oval-shaped leaves, so it's not like serrated at the ends.
Right, like a holly bush.
Yeah, like it's a...
Okay.
I guess I could have just said smooth edged.
No, but untoothed is so much more high society.
It's so untoothed. How
untoothed of you.
Okay. So...
No, we shan't be dining with them. They are untoothed, my dear.
I'm pretty sure like a word that's actually that you would use is uncouth.
Yes, it sounds like uncouth.
Uncouth. Yeah.
They're untoothed.
And I feel like that's about as high and mighty as you get down here in the South. When the Southern lady goes, he ain't got no couth. Like, it's a very...
Say that?
Yeah.
That's really funny. I didn't know
it's
that
like,
people said that.
It's like, it's very, it's very like old Southern, but also like high society. It's really strange when they say it like that, because it's like mixing two whole cultures. Anyway.
I had 2 coworkers at the YMCA, which I got fired from. And the supervisor that we had, she looked at both of them, and they were kind of squirrely. And she looked at both of them as they walked away, and I was standing right there. And she fully knew that I was standing, and she goes, them 2 were trick or treat.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was supposed to be, but I know it's an insult.
You look as nervous as a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs. Yeah, we got a lot of them down here.
Like a one-legged man in a dancing contest.
Sometimes sometimes this Southern spirit just comes over you.
Yeah.
You just make one up. And somehow it makes sense. You just make it up, and it's like, yeah, that makes sense. And you may never use it again, but it works.
Me and your mama used to get down like a car with 4 flat tires.
Oh my God, don't. You've got problems.
I apologize.
Anyway.
Also, I regret nothing.
Anyway, back to these untoothed, oval-shaped leaves. They have prominent veins and green flowers in the summer months, so they bloom in the summer. And it produces these round black berries in the fall. Now, if eaten, these berries can cause paralysis. So don't...
Straight to the point.
Don't eat them.
Okay.
If you see blackberries in the fall, don't be like, you know what? Trick or treat. I'm going to go try one.
Eat that.
Yeah. It's very... I mean, it's giving Halloween, but don't. Just don't. You know. Now, this effect is delayed, and you won't likely know you've been poisoned for several days or sometimes weeks before the paralysis hits.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
It contains 4 toxins known as dimeric anthracinones. Yeah.
Okay.
It's like you want to say anthrax because it starts with anthracinones.
Okay.
Anyway, which is anthrax we'll talk about in another episode, of course, because it is also, it's a poison in and of itself. And while it mainly affects livestock such as cattle, sheep, goats, hogs, horses, and some fowl because of their grazing, It is also toxic to people in the same way, causing damage in the nervous system, liver, lungs, and kidneys. Eating 0.05 to 0.3% of one's body weight in seeds will cause poisoning. You only need a tiny bit.
Wow.
The leaves are less toxic. It's more like 15 to 21% of one's body weight. Mm-hmm. Still not great, but one study that I found from 1978, I know it's a while back for some of you youngins out there, found evidence that the toxins primarily act on Schwann cell metabolism.
Not the Schwann cells.
Not the Schwanns. Now, if you're unfamiliar with Schwann cells, when something is doing this to your Schwann cells, it is basically causing demyelination of the nerve cells. So you're getting basically, it's like MS is a condition where you would have demyelinization.
Wow.
Of your nerve cells.
That is a lot.
So it's basically doing that to you.
Yikes.
Yeah. Now, it causes this not asymmetric. It causes asymmetric, progressive, and ascending paralysis, and is similar in its presentation to poliomyelitis and Guillain-Barré.
Right.
So
you said it's ascending, like it's ascending up the spinal column, or like
from extremities upward.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
In severe cases, it can lead to something known as bulbar. Wow, that's hard to say for me. Bulbar palsy, affecting the lower cranial nerves in the lower brainstem. Bulbar palsy can lead to such symptoms as difficulty chewing and swallowing. So like you have a risk of aspiration right there, or risk of choking. Facial muscle weakness, vomiting, trouble speaking, atrophy of muscles throughout your body, muscle twitching, and something called tongue fibrillation, which I had never heard of. And I'm a nurse. I've never heard of tongue fibrillation. It is the involuntary, uncontrolled, and constant tongue movement. So it's like you can't control your tongue is moving.
Of the tongue.
Yeah.
That's hysterical.
About the word, I'm like, surely it doesn't mean like atrial fibrillation or like the fibrillation, but apparently, yeah, it does.
Well, yeah, it's
in a way, yeah.
Yeah, it's like a
because your tongue is a muscle too, right?
That's right.
So
like quivering of a muscle,
and your heart is a muscle. So I guess it does make sense. It's just I've just never heard of your tongue doing that.
Me neither. That's new to me.
So there you go.
I'll tell you what, this podcast is educational. You guys got to listen.
Indeed.
You know what I mean?
Also, don't eat that.
Don't eat that.
Yeah. Respiratory paralysis and arrest typically follow the paralysis of the extremities, as it is ascending, and death is often the end result. So basically, like it's working its way up, gets to your diaphragm.
Oh my God.
You know, when you're breathing, you're not like paying attention to it. Most of us aren't, right?
No, it's an automatic.
So yeah, and so like you have muscles that are working to help you breathe. If you get paralysis in those muscles, you cannot breathe.
Yeah.
So
that's wow.
Now,
and what's the do you know what the mortality rate is of being poisoned with this?
It doesn't happen enough for it to really. I mean, people tend to stay away. It's not something that people come across that often to where they're
good
chowing down on it. Okay.
All right.
But it could happen if you were to eat these. So if you're just wandering through the plains of Texas and you see these black berries in the fall, just don't PETA. You know. You get that reference, right? Like in the Hunger Games, where he's like, I found these berries.
That's hysterical.
Yeah, don't do that.
I forgot about that.
Mm-hmm. Now, in livestock, you would see exaggerated high stepping, jumping, or moving backwards. You'd see weakness and incoordination, especially of the hind legs, dragging of the legs when walking, wasting, inability to eat, inability to get up, and death. So it's pretty similar within them. There is no effective treatment for Coyotillo poisoning, and most plans, if you were poisoned, include physical therapy and supportive care. Among humans, some may recover with supportive care such as mechanical ventilation, though the paralysis of extremities may be permanent.
That's intense.
So
from some berries, bro?
Yeah. It's mainly the seeds within the berries that are causing it, right? But if you eat the berries, you're likely eating the seeds.
Of course, you can't separate this, yeah. I'm assuming it's not a very big berry. It's not like taking seeds out of a watermelon.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Wow.
All right. So, like other poisons, this plant has seen use in herbal or alternative medications, especially by indigenous peoples. Now, the bark has been used to make a tea to help lower fevers. So, because it's a woody shrub, so they just take the woody parts, and I guess they boil it into a tea.
Wow.
A tincture, and I know you love that word. A tincture with the leaves has been used to help with convulsions, as seen with seizures, though it is very risky, and the leaves have also been used with wound care.
Okay.
Now that's just like this that you don't find this being done too often anymore, but just to say, historically speaking.
Wow.
So that's the first one I wanted to mention. And if you've heard of these, like I want to know, like, let me know if you guys have heard of these, especially like if you like live on farms and such, because like some of these are probably more well known amongst
especially you got livestock
Oh.
that'll reach over the fence and grab a bush or two. Yeah.
Now we're going to talk about corn cockle. You were so immature. Agrostemma githago? Githago? Get up and go. Get up and don't. Okay.
Say it again.
Corn cockle.
Y'all can't see her face right now. It's so great. Please continue.
Now, see, when you're being ridiculous, I'm just going to start calling you absolute corn cockle.
That's fine.
That's what I'm going to do. All right.
Put that on the next coffee cup.
So this is a seemingly delicate wildflower native to Europe with stems growing to 100 centimeters, about 39 inches long, ending in usually singular pink or purple scentless flowers in the summer months. This also blooms in summer. These flowers are about 5 centimeters or 2 inches in diameter. Each petal has 2 to 3 black lines, and they may be broken lines, kind of running up the petals. Looks like somebody drew or tried to draw a black line, a couple of black lines on the petals. Seed capsules develop within each flower, producing a lot of these warty, covered brown-black seeds that are about the size of a grain of wheat. It is hardier than it looks, having been found in the area surrounding Pompeii, dating from before the city was destroyed. So, it made it past then.
Wow.
I mean,
all right.
I'm sure it like died and then grew back up, whatever. The name comes from the Greek agros, which is field, and stemma, which is garland or crown. So it's basically like garland of the field, crown of the field. Githago, and I'm probably saying that so wrong, but it sounds really cool to say it like that, so I'm sorry, comes from the name of one of the toxins it produces, githagen. Githagen. I don't know. Githagen.
Githagen's Island.
Guess again. I'm just kidding. Githagen.
It sounds like you're saying guess again with a lisp.
Yeah.
Guess again.
Githagen. Okay. Now, in fact, the entire plant is poisonous, especially its seeds containing a glucoside, which is basically a glycoside derived from glucose. Now, those are kind of your favorites, the cardiac glycosides there.
Yeah.
But this is a glucoside, as well as the saponin toxins githagen and agrostemic acid. It also produces ribosomal inactivating proteins, literally
shuts down your cells.
Literally RIPs. Rips.
Get out of here. That's so funny. In a really deep, dark way, but you get it.
So these inactivate ribosomal RNA, leading to irreversible inhibition of protein synthesis and therefore cell death, similar to another poison we've recently talked about, ricin or abrin.
Yes,
it could do that too. Maybe in a different. It's a similar way, but yeah. It grows throughout North America, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand now, likely spread there through contaminated wheat from Europe. Speaking of Europe, it is now less common due to pesticides and mechanized farming. So, we've developed better ways of farming to get rid of it. But it can be found in grain fields, roadsides, railroads areas, waste areas, and abandoned fields. Upon contaminating wheat, it turns flour rancid. Pretty much. So accidental poisoning in the past would have occurred as a result of contaminated flour. However, it turns the bread gray and bitter, so it's not exactly something you'd want to purposely eat anyway.
Oh.
But I can imagine, if you're living in poverty at this time in this place, you're going to try to eat whatever you can get, right?
Keep from starving.
Now, just a pinch of the seeds, grounded at least, is enough to kill a horse or a human by paralyzing the respiratory system, thereby suffocating them.
Gosh.
Put another way, only 1/4 to 1 pound of ground seeds per 100 pounds of body weight is enough to kill any animal. Symptoms start with diarrhea, drooling, dizziness, and vomiting before escalating to paralysis, respiratory distress, coma, and possibly death. So we're seeing some similarities between this one and the first one. It's got this paralysis, respiratory paralysis going on. And the rips in this one. R.I.P.
That's right.
Thankfully, human poisoning is now very rare thanks to better farming techniques like I mentioned earlier. The most common animals to experience poisoning now are pigs and poultry due to accidental contamination of feed or grazing on seeds alongside the rest of the plant, which is less poisonous than the seeds, but still. Culturally speaking, the pulling of cockle from corn harvests. Are you going to laugh every time I say this?
Funny to say. Sorry.
Don't mind him. He's 12.
Yes.
And is an integral part of, you may need to help me with this, Fête de Brandon. It's French. Fête de Brandon on the first Sunday of Lent.
Yeah.
Fête de Brandon.
Can I see it?
Yeah. I don't know how you say Brandon in French. It doesn't sound like, I don't think the French go around saying, hey, Brandon.
Fête de Brandon. That's probably, yeah.
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 Here we just say Brandon, but that don't sound right. That don't sound French, you know?
Fête de Brandon.
Fête de Brandon. You know what? Feel free to correct me.
Sure.
So, on the first Sunday of Lent. Fun fact, there is supposedly a snake-like creature of mythology known as the cuculus, meaning corn cockle, that blights crops of corn. This is in Lithuania, where they believe this. It is apparently related to the Caucus, a hobgoblin that's kind of similar to a leprechaun in Irish folklore. This is Lithuania. It's a hobgoblin of the harvest. So there's this like mythological creature that's also called a corn cockle.
Okay.
That blights crops.
Interesting.
So interesting, yeah. So that is corn cockle.
Your face when you say it now.
So we're going to talk about dog's mercury. This one's an interesting one, also known as mercurialis perennis. Now, this doesn't have anything to do with dogs, and it's not like the mercury we have talked about, which is like the element mercury. The name of this plant sounds similar to dogbane, but it is not in that family. Mm-hmm. In this case, the word dog simply means false or bad. I don't know why.
Okay.
But that's what it means. It may have been named this to distinguish it from annual mercury, which is another plant, not the element. Mm-hmm. Because unlike the latter, it has no medicinal use. Although people have tried to use it medicinally, but we'll get to that.
Okay.
It is a fast-growing weed of the spurge family. Remember the spurge family? Remember the manchineal tree?
Oh, those. Yeah. Okay.
There's other. We've discussed other. Other.
Those
species in the spurge
That's the
family.
tree you can stand under when it rains and you get poisoned because the rain supposed to carry the poison onto you.
It's yeah.
That's crazy.
If you're in Florida and you've got experiences with that,
dude,
let us know.
I just need to close Florida. Sorry.
Poor Florida. It typically lives in shady, damp forests and can be indicative that a forest has been there a very long time, as in this is an ancient sort of forest, which sounds really cool.
It does.
It has spear-shaped, toothy leaves. Thank you very much. Not untoothed. It is not untoothed. It is toothy. And clusters of small green flowers. It also smells like death.
Okay. What do you mean?
Literally, it apparently smells like rotting flesh.
Well, that's an easy tell.
So there you go.
All right. I'm encouraged. We'll be able to spot that.
The entire plant is highly toxic, containing trimethylamine. That's the cause of its smell. Mm-hmm. Mercurialine and saponins.
Mercurialine?
Yes, I cannot say that word to save my life. Mercurialine.
Syllabic acrobatics.
Mercurialine.
You got to put the emphasis on the right syllable. That's the only problem.
Corn cockle. Sorry, no.
Corn cockle.
Corn cockle. Mercurialine.
Mercurialine.
There you go. and saponins similar to those found in corn crackle. Poisoning involves hemorrhagic or internal inflammation, especially gastric and of the kidneys. It also causes muscle spasms, nausea, and drowsiness. It seems to have some sort of narcotic effect, like only enough to cause some neuro issues.
Why can't there be a poison that helps me hemorrhage my bad habits?
Well, then it wouldn't be a poison.
I guess that's a good point.
Inflammation of the cheeks and jaw may occur. In high enough doses, you'll have jaundice, lethargy, painful urination, because apparently it turns urine into acid.
Okay.
So you're basically peeing acid.
That's a new twist. We've yet to hear something like that. Somebody made this.
You know, I aim to please. I try to come with new content.
I know what else. Let's make their pee hurt super bad. What do you guys think?
I said pee. So,
oh, man.
Also coma and death. So there's that.
Just the capstone. Finish with this movie.
So cases of poisoning are rare. It isn't exactly appealing because, you know, it smells like death. But
I can't imagine.
In 1693, this goes way back, a family of 5 became seriously ill after eating it. They tried to cook it.
Oh, okay.
Cooking does not help, apparently.
Well, didn't everything smell like death at that point?
You know what?
1693. There's not consistent hygiene.
Everyone. Yeah. So they may not have even noticed.
That is.
I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just saying,
no,
you know.
You're exactly right.
Yeah.
That's awful.
So unfortunately, one of the children died some days later because of it.
Terrible.
In 1983, this is a little bit closer to home time-wise, a couple mistook dog's mercury for brooklime. So they washed, cooked, and ate a large quantity of the leaves and were subsequently hospitalized with severe gastrointestinal complications, including vomiting, diarrhea, inflammation. This also led to dehydration.
Yeah.
So they were treated with sodium bicarbonate 4 times a day to neutralize the acid in their urine. Oh. And they did recover. Oh, so
I am shocked.
Thankfully. I'm sure with lots of fluids and things like that.
Well, could it have been the cooking that maybe saved them?
It doesn't go away with
it
cooking.
Doesn't matter?
No.
Wow.
I'm sure they were able to flush it out with fluids, get their the pH in their urine and all that.
That's nuts,
fixed,
dude.
But
I can't imagine.
Yeah. So
the only thing worse than having to be hospitalized is having a doctor come in and say, "This is really rare, actually. Like, I don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear the standard issue
You're the
stuff."
first person I've had to deal with this.
Oh man.
It's like a nurse coming in and be like, "I've never done this before." Oh, you don't do that.
Never say that.
No.
Yeah, like, you know, I had my gallbladder taken out, 3 years ago now? Even the girl who was running the ultrasound, they're not allowed to say, you know, exactly what's going on. But I was wearing my scrubs that day. And so I was like, "Can you give me a hint?" And she goes, "I think you're going to find what you're looking for." And at that point I had suspicions it was a gallbladder thing. So I was like, "Okay, good. Thank you." I just didn't want to hear anything where she's like, "I don't know what's on that screen. That's some weird looking." I don't want to hear that.
Almost sounds like a medical 8-ball. Like, you're going to find the answers you need. Yeah. Anyway.
That would have been more fun if she'd have handed me an 8-ball.
Likely. Maybe.
Possibly. Outlook isn't good.
No.
Okay.
All right. So livestock such as sheep have also been affected where it grows. So
of course.
That sucks too. Because sheep are cute. It's like every time the word sheep passes through my brain, our daughter loves Shaun the sheep.
Oh my
It's gosh. Shaun the sheep. It's Shaun the sheep. And so like all I see are the different characters in Shaun the sheep, and I'm like,
that's right.
Shirley. One of them's name is Shirley. Yeah. Anyway. So this plant has another name that is interesting. It's the boggart's posy.
The boggart's posy?
Yeah. And I know you know what a boggart is because of...
Yeah. Harry Potter. Professor Lupin.
Okay. So yeah, if you've ever read or seen the Harry Potter series, you've heard of a boggart, but they have existed, or not. I don't know if they exist, but they have existed in folklore at least.
Mr. Longbottom,
long
fear?
before
Professor Snape.
Long before she put that in the books.
Oh, that's amazing.
So it's been around for a long time.
Okay.
But these are malevolent and mischievous spirits in folklore found in England, Scotland, and Ireland and other areas. It's also called. It's where we get boogeyman from.
Oh.
Or
okay.
A bugbear, which if you play D&D, you probably know what a bugbear is, right?
Oh, man.
Are there bugbears in D&D?
I don't remember.
Pretty sure you almost got killed by one once.
Did I really?
Probably.
Oh,
you weren't paying attention. You were on your phone.
I'm sorry.
And we almost lost our paladin that day.
Oops.
Anyway. So a similar creature in Ireland is known as a puka or a ghost.
Did you say puka?
Puka.
How do you spell that?
P-U-C-A.
Okay, because there are puka fish in Destiny 2.
You are obsessed.
A little bit.
With Destiny 2. Okay.
A little bit.
So in Scotland, they are apparently called bogles.
All right.
So, or bogles. Bogles. Anyway, there are a lot of folk tales involving the creature that you can read. Like you can go online, find all kinds of folklore out there and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And in books. Please read books. Books are amazing.
Books are great.
Boggarts typically haunt specific locations like homes, rivers, hills, geographic locations, whatever. They like a specific. They find a place and it's like, oh, this is mine. Thanks. And it is said that wild boggarts abduct children and drown strangers. So they're a little bit more frisky. The domestic boggarts, because apparently there's domestic ones, they simply play tricks like turning milk sour, stealing bed sheets, hiding stuff, and waking people up by putting their little clammy hands all over their faces.
It sounds like the domestic boggarts know how to party.
Yeah, they're just having fun, apparently. If you give them names, they become worse for some reason. I guess they don't like it when you give them names.
This is so interesting.
Like, are boggarts like maybe they're part of like the fae culture?
Don't say fae.
Because I know like with the fae stuff, like you're not supposed to tell them thank you. Like it's very offensive to them if you tell them thank you. So like maybe giving a boggart a name is very offensive to it.
Interesting.
Yeah. So
I'll keep that in mind.
Interesting. I need to do some research on that because that sounds very interesting. Also, if you move, they apparently will follow you. They'll just hang out with you. Like they get accustomed to you and they just want to keep haunting you.
Like a black lab you rescued from the pound.
You leave my dog out of this.
Okay, sorry.
My dog is a good dog.
Yes.
She just follows me everywhere.
She does.
She's a sweetheart.
Oh, there she is. I'm just kidding.
Oh,
made you
I
look.
was like, oh, my baby. Okay. So you can only get rid of a boggart, apparently, by hanging a horseshoe on the door.
With a Patronus charm. What?
No, that's a Dementor.
Actually, you're right. I'd like to take this opportunity to apologize to all the Potterheads listening right now. The boggart was taking the form of a Dementor.
Yeah, get it right.
You don't have to defend yourself against a boggart. They're simply an illusion.
And you know what? You just literally offended all the Dementors. So good luck with that. Okay.
They're obviously listening. We get DMs all the time. I'm telling you, it's crazy. No,
so you can.
They have fingers. They can type.
Apparently, you get rid of it by hanging a horseshoe on the door. I'm not sure if that's where we get that whole idea or not. If it's limited to that, or if there's other things you do horseshoes for. Because horseshoes are supposed to be lucky. It goes back to this time. Okay. Or leaving salt outside your bedroom.
This sounds like some papaw stuff.
If you're super into Harry Potter, you say ridiculous. That's the charm.
Ridiculous. If you feed that dog gunpowder, he'll guard the back door all night.
Can I pet that?
Okay.
Sorry, that is always in my head. So
your brain won't store automatic behavior, but it does store TikTok sounds.
It does. I have been saying, "Can I pet that?" randomly for the last 3 weeks.
I love it.
Okay.
It will never end.
It will never end. I'll wake up at 3 a.m. with "Can I pet that?" stuck in my head. So this is my life. Now, some have also said that a boggart could have been a nice household sprite that was offended. So it was like, screw you, good luck finding your keys. Also, here's some bad milk. So don't offend your house sprites.
Oh, man.
I'm just guessing that it's called this, that this particular plant is also called a boggart's posy, because of its quick and seemingly like uncontrolled growth on the floor of ancient forests, or its stench, or maybe its poisonous attributes.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to figure out why it's called that, but that's just my guess. Okay. So yeah, that was Dog's Mercury.
That's fascinating.
Pretty fun stuff.
Wow.
I love plants that are both poisonous and also have a really good
like a bunch of
folklore
totally.
surrounding it.
The lore is the best.
Love it. Just love the way people thought back then, you know,
totally.
Or like
completely like just fantastical. Like, yeah, the imagination could run wild, and there was no myth and legend were like the facts.
But there was also a bit of truth in them because you learned from them. There's something you did learn from those things.
Sure, yeah.
Right. So, like. There
wasn't a hint of microbiology or
no. I mean,
nobody knows what's happening. But I tell you what did happen one night. We was out there at the,
Yeah, I mean, like germ theory didn't show up until not really that long ago, unfortunately. So
it hasn't been too long.
Yeah, we didn't have pasteurization until. I mean, considering the span of history, it's been pretty recent.
I'm glad to have been born when I was born. Let's say that.
So. I'm going to discuss fool's parsley, Aethusa sinapium.
Fool's parsley.
Fool's parsley.
I'm immediately interested. You literally used parsley tonight in.
I did.
Oh my God, did you poison me? Is this it? Am I dying?
No.
Okay.
This one's kind of a doozy.
Would you tell me if you were? I don't think you would. This is admissible in court.
Let's find out.
Okay.
So, this is an inedible herb that resembles parsley, but is more closely related to hemlock. We've discussed hemlock.
I can't believe you poisoned me tonight. We were recording the podcast tonight. You knew this. Just kidding.
Really? Anyway, now if I was going to do it, it'd be on a Monday.
That tracks.
Anyway.
Let me have the weekend. So great.
So it's less poisonous than hemlock, but still dangerous to humans and animals alike. It contains dangerous alkaloids. It is a wildflower native to Europe, Western Asia, and Northwest Africa, but has been introduced to other parts of the world, such as North America and Australia. It can be found in waste areas, meadows, or along roadsides, and it resembles parsley and water hemlock with its white, small flowers shooting up. Remember the pictures of the tiny little white flowers on the longer stems?
Mm-hmm.
Like when parsley does this thing called bolting, like when it's putting up its final...
Mm-hmm.
Goodbye. Here's my seeds. Whatever. It looks like this too.
Interesting.
So fool's parsley has an unpleasant smell when crushed, however. So if you can't tell, just crush them between your fingers and then make sure you wash your hands. And the stems are hairless. Good to know. Also, the leaves are more distantly arranged. So they're still somewhat close together, but not so much as, say,
actual parsley.
Yeah.
Okay. So, it wishes it was parsley.
Right. And would I go out and be like, I don't think that's fool's parsley, so I'm gonna eat it? No. If I don't know, I'm just not gonna eat it.
That's your move.
I'm not. I love talking about this stuff, but I'm not like a botanist that's like, I am very experienced in finding all these things.
We presume no expertise.
I'm just trying to help with
yeah.
what these things do.
Don't eat that.
Don't eat that. Please don't. It has several folk names, including Devil's Wand, Lesser Hemlock, and Mother Dye.
Mother Dye? How is dye spelled?
D-I-E. How do you spell dye?
I thought you meant like dyeing fabric.
Oh, no.
Mother Dye?
Mother Dye. Now, I'm going to explain it.
I am. You are?
Yes.
Okay, great.
So that name, the latter name, is also attributed to cow's parsley, which is also Queen Anne's lace, for people who know it better as Queen Anne's lace.
Okay.
Which looks similar, but is not poisonous. Queen Anne's lace isn't. But it looks very similar to fool's parsley. This name comes from the folktale told to children that if they choose to pick this herb, their mother would die. It's basically to prevent them from picking and eating poisonous lookalikes.
Oh, so it has a utility.
Yeah, so it's like
interesting.
It's kind of like how you teach kids fables or kids these days are like, step on a crack, break your mother's back. Or is that like back in our day? I don't know. Camilla still said it, so she heard it somewhere. So she's
certainly still goes around.
Yeah. I don't know where that originates, but you can tell these kids these stories and they remember it and they're like, oh, don't do that. Don't pick that. Don't eat that.
That's helpful.
Yeah. It seems like kind of harsh, but back then, I imagine you had to do what you had to do to keep your kids alive.
Oh, God. You kidding? So, the mortality rate was so much higher, too. It just wasn't uncommon for people to die.
I mean, they may not even make it past the age of 5.
Right.
So, which is terrible. Now, fool's parsley poisoning can result in a burning sensation in the mouth and throat and blistering and burns in the stomach. No fun. In severe cases, it can lead to muscle paralysis and death by suffocation. That seems to be making a trend with all these.
That sounds so terrible.
Now, reported cases or deaths are rare, but I did find one mentioned of an English child in 1845 dying of lockjaw and asphyxiation after mistaking the herb for turnips.
Oh, dear.
It is still a problem for livestock, so if found, it must be kept away from them.
Certainly.
To prevent them from eating it.
Wow.
Now, it has been used some historically as an alternative ingredient, as like a diuretic and for skin treatments, but due to its toxicity, it is really, really not advised. Fool's parsley was also once thought to be magical, and in some cultures was considered as an ingredient to be used in spells and charms. Maybe that's where devil's wand comes from.
Just gotta be.
People are like, witchcraft, right? Also, its smell was once thought to keep evil spirits away. Which, I guess, what do you crush it? Keep it? I don't know. So normal edible parsley couldn't get away from folklore either. Okay. It was once believed that because it took parsley, just even regular parsley, so long to grow from seed, like to germinate, it must be growing all the way down to hell. Therefore, if disturbed or uprooted, a pathway straight to hell could be opened, and you would be in danger of being hauled off by the devil.
This sounds like a
parsley.
Passage.
This is parsley.
This sounds like a passage from Dante's Inferno. Okay.
Like if you uproot it, you might fall into hell or something.
Because that makes sense.
It was also it was also once tied to Persephone and ancient.
Don't actually, is how you say that.
No, Persephone. My favorites in Greek mythology, by the way. And ancient Greek funerals. Persephone, she was like the queen of the underworld, right? Because she was taken.
No, I didn't know that.
What?
They
didn't teach y'all?
I knew that.
Did they teach y'all mythology? Y'all went to like but you went to like a.
We didn't get too deep in it, man.
You went to like a private Christian school.
No. That was much more well-rounded. The public school I went to, it was,
Really, I'm shocked by that.
That was around that was around the time when teachers first started realizing I should give up. I should.
But pay teachers more.
Yes.
Also, quit banning books. What is wrong with you people? Anyway.
Ban stupidity.
Anyway, here we are. I am pro book. Persephone, basically, just to fill you in.
Persephone.
So Hades was like, ooh, that girl fine. And basically stole her away to Hades. But then this is like me just really shortening the story. So I'm not doing it justice. Okay. So basically her mother, who is, I think, Demeter. Is her mother Demeter?
Demeter.
Why do you do that? Why do you do that?
Actually,
anyway.
I don't know if my brain wants to pronounce it Demeter. Sorry.
Demeter. I'm pretty
sure. The inch or Demeter?
I think that's her mother's name. I'm going to go look it up after this, but I think it is. Anyway, Persephone's mother was like, excuse me, I don't think so. So they made a bargain basically where Persephone would spend the winter months in Hades with Hades and the spring and summer months back up with her mother. So that's why you have winter. And that's why you have spring. Anyway, look it up. Persephone's mother. Look it up because I need to know. Look it up.
What, how to say it?
No, I want to know if it's Demeter because I want to make sure I'm giving people correct information. Okay. I'm going to keep going while you do that. It also goes back to the legend of the infant prince Opheltes, who died after being bit by a serpent, and parsley grew where his blood touched the earth.
Demeter.
It's Demeter. Okay. I don't know. I could be saying it wrong too, but my teachers always said Demeter, so I'm just going by what I was taught, okay?
Okay.
So, parsley was used on Greek tombs. And there was even a phrase that I am going to butcher.
Please do.
Look, I took Latin and I still don't know how to say this. Deis tai selenon, meaning to need only parsley for when someone was close to death, because they would make wreaths out of parsley and put them on their graves, basically.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Okay.
They kind of represented death for whatever reason. And now you cook with it and eat death lettuce. So, death lettuce. That's not even poisonous.
Devil's wand lettuce.
Okay, but don't eat fool's parsley. You'd be a fool to eat fool's parsley.
Hey-o.
Don't do it. Okay.
Trademark.
So I want to talk about one final one that's actually quite big in history, in American history, especially when like the frontier stuff was big, right? Yeah. Okay. This is white snake root, and I think it's named after indigenous peoples used to try to use it to help with snake bites. So it's called white snake root. So it's Agaritina altissima, it is a poisonous perennial herb native to eastern and central North America. And it can grow up to 1.5 meters or 4.9 feet tall, with multiple clumps of little white flowers blooming between July and October. It looks similar to fool's parsley or hemlock, like with its little white flowers. But the leaves are different and like bigger. So it's like, I feel like and I'm sure there's a name for this and I'm just forgetting it, but with like hemlock and with parsley and such, it has like these little, like multiple small leaves kind of going down the side and stuff. These just have like these big kind of regular sized, bigger leaves growing on it. If that probably doesn't make any sense, but just to give you a visual. It has small seeds with fluffy white tails, sort of like dandelions that you blow, make wishes.
Yeah.
These form after it flowers so that the wind can spread them, basically. Now, white snake root contains the toxin trimetol. When it is consumed by cattle, the toxin contaminates the meat and the milk.
Oh.
If the contaminated byproducts are then consumed by humans, they can be poisoned.
Oh, dear.
The illness associated with this poisoning is also called milk poisoning. I'm going to tell you why. In the early 19th century, milk sickness was common on early American farms. Whole families would succumb to milk sickness after experiencing symptoms like weakness, vomiting, tremors, and delirium.
That's insane.
Thousands died.
Wow.
Even horses and cattle showed signs and died.
It's terrible.
Signs in animals included listlessness, weight loss, and trembling in the legs and muzzle.
There's like 100 different ways to die in those times.
Dumb ways to die.
It's so just like you're under threat. You're under like mortal threat 24/7.
Well, in some places it's still like that though.
Well, yeah, true.
I mean, like we could go by like certain countries and do poisons of certain countries. Like we could talk about India, we could talk about Australia.
Yeah.
And like, America has plenty of its own poisonings. But it'd be interesting to look into poisons that don't grow here, because there's quite a few out there that you might not have never heard of. This one, however, is an early American poison. And this plant is still around, but now we know about this. So one victim of milk poisoning was Nancy Hanks Lincoln.
Like Abraham Lincoln?
Abraham Lincoln's mother.
Oh my gosh.
She died in 1818 of milk sickness after only a week of symptoms. And she was only 34.
Dude.
Abraham Lincoln was 9 when his mother died. His great aunt and uncle, so his mom's aunt and uncle, also died, as well as many others in their little Indiana town of milk sickness.
Terrible.
It was so common at the time that people began naming places such names as Milk Sick Ridge, Milk Sick Cove.
Oh my God.
There's a Milk Sick Holler. Also, what the heck is a holler? I feel like I should know that because.
Well, it's supposed to be hollow, and I think that
holler.
Yeah, I think it applies to, most places are, wooded until they're cleared and settled. So there's like a hollow where there's, open areas. I think that's what that refers
That
to.
holler out yonder.
Yes.
Okay. Now, some farmers and doctors realized that the illness was caused by snake root, sort of independently, like on their own. But it wasn't like they could just share this information on social media. I mean, news was not exactly quick back then.
No, the only person who would even pick up on it would be a physician who at the time their skills and their knowledge was, it was.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that.
Ah.
Because it was an Illinois doctor named Anna Bixley that is credited for its identification in the 1830s.
Get out.
It is said by some that she was taught about the plant by a Shawnee woman.
Get out of here. Talking about a Native American Shawnee. Oh my gosh.
Whatever the case, she apparently realized that this milk sickness was seasonal and hypothesized, as any good scientist would, that a plant might be the culprit. She traveled around fields until she found snake root. She fed some of it to a calf and was able to confirm that it was the cause of milk sickness.
That's crazy.
So by instructing others to eliminate the plant, she was able to nearly rid her own town of milk sickness. She tried to tell others as well who had authority to do this to help rid their towns,
Who were probably men. But because she's a girl.
Maybe if she told a bear, they might have listened. So she tried.
The bear would be like, appreciate it, girl. You a real one,
But she tried to, say, hey, this is what's causing this. But she wasn't taken seriously. Women doctors at this time were not exactly taken seriously.
You're kidding. I'm shocked.
It would not be widely recognized as the source of milk sickness until the 1920s.
That's 100 years later.
How about listen to women? Okay.
I am aghast.
Anyway. Since then, farmers have learned to eradicate the plant or at least keep their livestock from it using fences, and such.
And make sure no one knows that a woman told them to do it.
It is uncommon in the U.S. today, thankfully. And treatment today would involve controlling symptoms, using laxatives, sodium lactate, glucose, or Ringer solution. So basically, getting it out of your system, waiting for it to clear on its own.
Yep.
The toxin trimetol that's in snake root is not eliminated with pasteurization, by the way. So it's just you need to keep your animals.
Ma'am.
You got to keep your animals away from it.
Okay, Rob. Okay, I'm with you. I mean, that's the toxin. Right. That's the toxin from the snake root.
Yes.
Got you. So even if they have ingested snake root and you process the milk as usual, it will still be in there.
Yeah.
That's a lot to take in.
Yeah. So okay. you got to keep your animals away from it. But now we know that, and so we don't have milk sickness this time of year. All the time. People aren't dying from milk sickness. And it's really frustrating when you learn about the cause of something like scurvy. Scurvy. Scurvy was caused by a vitamin C deficiency. How many people died of scurvy simply because they didn't have an orange? That sucks. That really sucks. I would be so mad if I learned after death that, it's because, you didn't eat citrus fruits or you didn't have vitamin C. So
the sheer amount of information available now, it just dwarfs what was available even 50 years ago. It's absolutely just staggering how much more info just the presence of microscopes, imaging, lab testing, all that stuff.
Yeah. And, we could go into all kinds of fun germs, bacteria, and viruses.
Oh, dear.
That's another interest I have. I love it. And in a way, I separate it from poisons because we're talking about basically living organisms when we're talking about viruses, bacteria, and all these other things. I separate it, to another whole thing. But unless there are some poisons that are biological, though, and there are some poisons that come from bacteria and stuff. But there's a lot of bacteria and viruses that can really mess you up.
Becca keeps in mind that there are flesh-eating bacteria in bodies of water.
Oh, and
fresh and salt.
Naegleria fowleri. I don't deal with brain-eating amoebas.
No, ma'am. Yeah, excuse me, brain-eating amoebas. That's what it was.
There's flesh-eating bacteria too in some waters. And don't think for a second that you can get in the ocean with a wound. Don't do that.
I got her wound up, guys.
Don't do
I'm
that.
sorry.
It's salt water. Yeah, it's filled with bacteria.
I'm sorry. I'd like to apologize.
And algae, all kinds of stuff. Don't do that. Okay, I'm sorry. Anyway, I'm not saying like, oh, you got a little nick, you can't go swimming in the ocean. I'm just saying like, don't purposefully be like, yeah, I got this big old gaping wound in my ankle. I'm gonna go stick it in the ocean. Just don't. It's not going to. It's not going to heal your foot.
You said that makes that person sound like an idiot.
But there are like, look, we live in a place where people have said things like that and worse to me, and I tell them that's not how that works as a nurse, and I get shot down every time. And you know what? I don't argue anymore with those people.
No,
because it's like, okay,
Becca bought me.
Fine.
Becca bought me a badge holder for my ID badge for work, and the badge holder is a silhouette of Dwight Schrute's head, and underneath it says false. And I wear that right above my ID badge when I go to work.
It helps, doesn't it?
If people ask me about it, I'm like, this is basically my emotional posture every time I walk into a room with a patient.
I will say,
no, that's not true.
You won't get many friends though by talking about eating amoebas. So
she didn't start talking about that till after we were married. So.
Learned that the hard way.
Yeah,
those people won't call you back.
Okay.
So,
anyways,
but I hope you come back and listen.
Sure.
So,
all right, awesome. That's going to do it for this episode. Thank you guys for listening so much. Don't forget to leave a 5-star review on whatever platform you are listening on. Follow the podcast on the platform you listen on. We have just crossed the threshold of 1,000 followers total. Yay! Between Spotify and Apple Podcasts. That's super exciting. I just love that there's so many of you that are enjoying this podcast enough to just want to be, continuously fed these episodes every time we drop them. Make sure to follow us on socials, especially the podcast Instagram, poisoners_almanac on Instagram.
Which I'm going to go update after this.
Becca's going to go update that quickly.
It's summer break. My child has been very needy.
We have, like we said, it's a hostage negotiation every day. So thank you guys for listening. We'll see you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye-bye.